I grew up in Ohio. I went to college in Charleston, South Carolina at the Citadel, and then when I graduated, I got commissioned into the Navy. And so from there, I went to flight school in Pensacola, Florida. I wasn't a pilot, I'm a backseater, so like Goose and Top Gun.
I'm originally from Baltimore, Maryland. We moved down here, me and my husband, we moved down October 2018. And so we're kind of dug in now and we're comfortable, we like it. This is for us, it's an awesome retirement location. Low key, no racing cars through the city, and this is us now.
So I have attended the foundation galas for years. I have been on the Foundation Gala fundraising committee for years, including the year that we raised money for the breast center. Ironic. So at the time when I was doing that, it had a very special meaning to me because my mother actually died of breast cancer in 1984. Little did I know that I was going to be taking use of all the services that the breast center had to offer.
I got diagnosed with cancer in 2021. In my whole family, from my grandparents and great-grandparents on down, all die from cancer. And so we don't have heart disease, we're pretty healthy otherwise, but we get cancer and that's what we die from. So
my journey began in 2019. I was diagnosed. I had a lumpectomy. The second time, it hit me. I have to be honest. I had my 6-month checkup in December of last year. Everything was fine. Went back in June of this year. The doctor came in and she said to me, we found a lump. I said, are you sure? I mean, it's only been six months. And she said, yes.
You basically kind of like fall off a cliff. And so that happens, and then you go through a bunch of tests. You think, okay, well, maybe this isn't so bad. There's a lot of people that go through this. It's not going to be a problem. Then you kind of fall off the cliff again, and you think, geez, am I going to be dead in 6 months? Am I going to be dead in a year, 5 years? It's really tough. You know, you kind of live your life, and you don't really think about the end. Not at 46. You know, that's a long way off. But then you think, geez, it could be next year. Am I going to get to see my kids graduate, or get married, or have their own kids? You know. That was very sobering.
Being able to come to Calvert for my care meant the world to me. The appointments that you have when you're going through treatment, it's not just that day. You're coming back the next day for a follow-up. You're coming back in for a shot to get your white blood cells boosted. But being able to do that, I'm literally 10 minutes from my house. I would have never been able to do that if I had to drive to Annapolis or DC or Baltimore. It just meant the world to me to be able to do that.
And the pressure you feel as someone who's looking out for your family, trying to provide for them. That was one of the biggest things, you know, that was stuck in the back of my mind, is if I were to die, who's going to take care of my wife and my kids?
I sat with women in the radiation office, and many of those women in that facility had to take a bus to get there. I could not imagine, or there would be stories where they were actually doing radiation and chemotherapy at the same time, which I can't imagine either.
Some of the patients who they wait there's a waiting area over at the hospital. We sit there and we share. And 2 of the women said that when they leave treatment, they go to work. Sometimes I could barely get out of the bed. I thank God for my husband because he waited on me.
I actually did consider going to another hospital. I actually had an appointment made for a second opinion, but the more I thought about it, why am I doing that when I have such great care right here in my backyard? I had known other people that elected to go to other hospitals, and when I spoke to them about their care, they all felt like they were a number where they went. I also thought it was interesting that a friend that I had worked with years ago had the exact same diagnosis. She went to Hopkins from St. Mary's, and her surgeon was Dr. Singaris. And he's here. He's here in our local hospital.
Like, you may have had a parent that has gone through it or a friend who has gone through it, but you know, none of that is really the same as when you go through it yourself, because it was kind of sinking into the fact that my life that I had known up to this point was all going to be over with. Part of my job was so much about who I was, and to have to give that up. It's one thing if you voluntarily do it, another thing if you're told, hey, you can't do this anymore. The FAA, as soon as you start any kind of radiation or chemotherapy, you're immediately grounded. It doesn't matter what kind of pilot you are. I wanted to preserve that aspect of my life as much as I possibly could without sacrificing, my life.
And so they started treating it aggressively. And Dr. Patel said that the new immunotherapy treatment had just been approved like 6 months before.
She's quoting research that had just come out this month. So she is absolutely staying in touch with the latest research to make sure that I'm getting the best quality care that I can.
I was very fortunate in if such a thing could be said, and the kind of cancer I had and the way that the medical community treats it that allowed me to not necessarily be tethered to a hospital.
I'm not a very positive person in general. She could take something and make it feel like it was a privilege to be going through chemotherapy, and I needed that. She would say to me, and I still say this to myself when I think about trying to get through difficult situations, that if you turn around and think about it as a privilege, it's like if I would catch myself saying, I have to have chemo. She says, what if you reframe that and say, you get to have chemo? I'm like, you're right. It's a blessing. I've tried to become a much more positive person because you need to stay positive to get through this.
Spending time with your kids, spending time with your wife, doing things as a family where those things start to become way more important than they ever were before. Probably as important as they should have been. But life and work and the kids doing a bazillion different things, all that stuff kind of gets in the way. So it's weird, and I don't want to make cancer sound positive, but in a certain light, it allowed me at least to refocus on what's important. None of that stuff is really important. What's important is the time you spend with people, your kids and your family. That's important.
Now that I have experienced it for the second time, it's personal. Cancer doesn't pick and choose. Cancer exists, and one day it's going to hit home if it hasn't already done so.
But what I needed to keep reminding myself, what Dr. Patel needed to keep reminding me, this is not my mother's cancer, and it's not 1984. And this is, it's 2022, and just within the last 5 years, there has been so much progress made in this area. I thought I could never get through it, but we can do hard things. You're stronger than you think, and you're gonna do what you need to do to fight for your life.
Obviously, the pie in the sky wish all cancer should be cured. I know that's not a realistic thing, but it's, I think probably the biggest feeling I had was a lack of hope when you first get the cancer diagnosis. I wish if there was one thing that there could always be a light at the end of the tunnel, that there is hope here.